evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown, New Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standard. And we encourage you, however, to always be forceful with your point. You can also follow us by our YouTube and Facebook channels on Vaughan Radio for the video stream of this program. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening to the listening audience. Good evening to the people of St. Kitts Nevis, and of course those who listen to us on the World Wide Web and throughout the Caribbean Basin. Webbo, welcome back. Let me repeat that. Welcome back, Webbo. I'm happy to have you back, man. Anyway, we miss you, and everybody misses you, Webbo. Anyhow,
how do you know that?
Listen, I have been accosted many times, and the same refrain.
Just checking.
Where's Webbo? How is Webbo? When is he going to be back? And therefore, we have established, Vaughan Radio has established, the entire Vaughan Radio operation has established a hunger, a desire, a passion for this program, and as a result, we have to keep it going. Happy 34th year, Webbo, and we are in our 35th year, and we will continue to grow and go until. You
know what we do around here? We either multiply, we don't divide.
Right.
Or subtract. Well, thanks much, and as per usual, I don't like to say thanks for holding on, because it's a team effort, and sometimes, you know, the captain take a drink break or something, and then the vice captain and the others got to keep carrying on and win the match. And that's what we normally do. So, but still got to say, well,
we've been trained under your tutelage, and we have endured. And again, like I said, welcome back.
Well, folks say a lot of things, but a lady called me and she told me this that was said by Einstein. I don't know which Einstein, but anyway, it sounded good. She said that Einstein said that if you pull along people with you, they will succeed. If you push them, they will stop. And she said, you guys pull along each other, and so you do well. It sounds pretty good to me. So you know that Einstein said it?
No, I don't know.
Because I said, well, let me check with Edric and see. Anyway, okay. Conrad Nair, Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to the listening public via the various means of communication. Today, Webbo, first I must say we're happy to have you back. Yes, you've been missing for a while. Webbo, I'm happy to be here once again in this midst of this political atmosphere and climate. Webbo, I suppose it's a very, very, very serious time of our history, and it must be taken in that context, Webbo. As I said, I want to shout out, say good evening to my friends in the international circle in Toronto and Connecticut. I'm sure my friends also in New Jersey are locked in because everyone wants to be kept abreast as to what's going on, and at times hear an alternative and an objective view of the situation, Webbo. I want to say thanks for inviting me once again, and I'm looking forward to a healthy debate this evening, Webbo. Thank you.
Okay, I got some notes here, but as usual, let me begin by saying, well, what you got? And let me apologize. We didn't have maybe a session or two, maybe, but we apologize for that. But everybody called somebody else and said, well, those fellas are back, right? And let me give an explanation. Part of the thing is that we sort of strategize and think, but I said, well, the next few weeks will be rough. We didn't get a break for a little while, so we thought, let's get a break first, because the next few weeks will be rough. Okay? And we got to stay the course. Okay, so what we got?
Well, let me start out by stating I gave a fellow an apology, and upon listening to the rebroadcast, I am taking that apology back, because I didn't accuse the fellow of amnesia. The fellow brought in the issue, and I said, maybe tactically you have decided to bring this to the fore, but at the same time you may be suffering from a case of amnesia. Let me repeat that. You may be suffering from a case of amnesia. At the same time, the fellow called back and had me well told off, and as a result, Mr. Stanley, don't disrespect me. And I felt I owed him an apology, and I'm again taking back that apology, simply because I didn't accuse him of having amnesia. I said may. It was qualified by the word may, and in this regard, I don't think I owed him any apology for what he stated. At the same time, he has his agenda. We have a program to run, and we accommodate everybody. Well, I'm asking you to cut me some slack, that in case I'm here again hosting this show at any time, and he calls, I hope I could tell him, look, I can't take your call, politely. I hope you can cut me a little slack in that regard. Because when the program was over, your assistant came back and told me, Mrs. Stanley, don't let people talk over you. Those were her words. Another caller called in and said, Mrs. Stanley, if Mr. Herbert were here, he wouldn't get away with that. He wouldn't get away with that he went on with. But another caller who called understood and said he would like to have every day a new election so that the Labour Party could get back in. The fellow understood my defense, because I said the Honourable Mark Bentley has done, in my view, a great job for Nevis, and as a result, he is asking for Nevis's fair share. What is wrong with that? But this particular fellow wants the Labour Party to get back in, and as a result came on the radio with his agenda for the Labour Party and expected to be treated kindly. He was treated kindly, but then at the same time couldn't accept the fact that he conveniently had his own agenda, and conveniently stated, Mr. Stanley, anyhow, I said again, you may be suffering from a case of amnesia. I didn't accuse him of having amnesia. Webbo.
Okay, you think, Mr. Stanley, first of all, not everybody knows everything, but what is meant by using simple words and explanation, what is meant by suggesting to him he may have a case of amnesia, that's suggesting that he may have forgotten?
Well, listen.
No,
yes.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay. So,
quite correct.
Right. So I just wanted to ask, you think if you had said it in that simple terms, it might have not evoked such a response from him?
No, based on his agenda, he would have operated and reacted.
He would still have acted the same way.
Same way.
If you just politely said, you know, sir, maybe you might have forgotten. He'll still get the same response?
I would have gotten the same response.
Okay, I just check in because sometimes, you know, how you the technique that you use sometimes makes a difference. Just check in, just listening and hear. Okay, now if you got something.
Webbo, I understand what Mr. Stanley is trying to communicate, and I understand. I remember the exchange. I thought the gentleman was a bit harsh on Mr. Stanley, but at the same time, we're dealing with the public, and of course, I think experience and a little more skills might have turned down the tone of the back and forth. I don't really see a major issue surrounding the exchange. No, Mr. Stanley didn't have to apologize, given the meaning that he have just conveyed to you about he may have forgotten, because everybody may have forgotten, but sometimes people use a bigger word and some people take it offensive when they doesn't really know the meaning of it. And so within the context, I would not build a mountain out of that, really.
Yeah, well, I suppose I will always say leadership is not easy, and you know, you're dealing with the public. That's why I always encourage folks to, you know, make the point forceful, but be, you know, respectful and stuff like that, because it is a debate, and life in itself is that people trying to persuade other people of their viewpoints. But I've always said that that is what we offer. Now, when you're going to get beyond that pale, I'm not apologizing. I'm going to tell you not welcome. Okay? So I think most folks understand that. Now, having said that, since you have nothing else maybe to proffer, I want to just make one or two notifications. And one of them is that in our news this morning, in the news, there was an item which said that the Prime Minister of Grenada has warned the residents of Grenada that he has no magic wand to solve all of the country's problems. Now, just for a little background, I think he isn't even in yet a month. And again, when I saw that, the reality has stepped in on him real early, because I remember there was much dancing and celebration, maybe across the islands, because I think he's a young fellow and he unseated a veteran. But this thing is not easy. Talk is cheap, they used to say, but it's not cheap anymore anyway. But whiskey costs money. When you go and you keep telling people, I promise you I'm going to do this, do that, and so on, and sometimes you're not even challenged and cross-examined. A fellow gets up and he says, for instance, when I would run for prime ministership, for instance, and if you vote for me, then I would, let's say, build what? Schools. 8 schools, a brand new school for every village. And you said, that's good, let's get in this fellow. The fellow gets in, and then In some instances, he knew he wouldn't be able to do it. But in politics, there's a phrase that says, tell the people what they want to hear. However, you did what you had to do to persuade, and you get in. And then find out that is not as easy as just talking. So I think maybe it's a good strategy on his part to let them know early. All those things you heard, this is the real thing now. So I when I heard that, I thought it was interesting. And maybe it should give us a good sobering message, even as we are in the heat of our campaign right now for elections due in maybe a month or so. Or, a little over that. I don't know if anybody would like to...
Well, let me just remind the listening audience that there is a calypso that the fellow who sang it said, only who in the kitchen feel the heat. Only who's holding the iron feels the heat. And it is a true statement. You promise all kinds of things, but you recognize that governing is not so easy as you have just reiterated. The harsh reality steps in. Once you're in, you're expected to deliver what you have promised. But all those promises cannot be kept based on the harsh reality of finance, implementation, timeline, as the case might be. Again, only who's in the kitchen feels the heat. Only who's holding the iron feels the heat. Well,
yes, Naya.
Well, I think it's very worthy to note what the Grenada Prime Minister said, because yes, we are in the midst of a campaign and there's a lot of ideas. I like to share a lot of ideas, and people sometimes share their ideas with me. And I think it's important that we do that, and because out of ideas, solutions supposed to be forthcoming. But it's one thing I realize around here in politics. Those who are proposing things, they never really say where the finance is going to come from. When I listen into American politics, that is always an underlying factor. If they're on about doing something, making a policy or implementing something which require finance, they always give an explanation as to where the finance will come from. Sometimes at time taxing the rich, whatever. But I find sometimes the promises are made here without any substantiation as to the funding, where the funding will come from, or the resource, the place of the resource. And so it is, to me, something that we do, but it's even misleading before it gets on the go, because it's simply not guaranteeing anything. You're just basically making an empty promise. You're not showing or telling the people the way you will effectuate your promise. And so that's a problem going forward. And as I said before, it's a time when a lot of promises are being made and continue. And that will be happening right down until, I suppose, the election comes. There's a lot of talk these days about people getting a lot of supplies for homes and so forth. It seems to be happening for real. And that is almost like a curse in the midst of our democratic process. Because we see a lot of things which, to me, deviates from what we consider to be a true democracy. And it's within our own measurement, really, to limit ourselves. But when everybody does it, it seems to me like those who can make the greatest offer, who have the biggest money, tends to be in the better position to win. And so that is troublesome to me also. And so our election campaign and what we do leading up to election sometimes lead to what happened after the election, which is unfulfilled promises.
But isn't it the way we operate, though, Naya? And you mentioned, as you were explaining, basically everybody does it. For instance, as you again were explaining, I remember during a leadership debate when Dr. Simmons was the Prime Minister and Dr. Douglas was the challenger. And then there was also, who else was in the race? Michael Powell of the, UPP?
That's correct.
Right. So we had that leadership debate. And I remember Dr. Douglas making a proposal of how, I wonder if it was the sugar industry or something he was going to do. And then I asked him, well, how is going to pay for it? I mean, we have the tape still. And he couldn't answer because he, at the time, as Naya said, didn't have a description of that. I think didn't expect that question. And Dr. Simmons seized on it. He was the sitting Prime Minister, and of course, when you're in, you know when you're proposing something, you have to say, well, how you're going to pay for it, and so on and so forth. When you're a challenger, you just say anything. And I remember Dr. Simmons said, yes, Mr. Herbert, how is he going to pay for it? And so that's the sort of thing that we used to do. But nobody, well, I don't know about others, but nobody wants me to interview them anymore, right? Because everybody has their own show, and everybody has their own platform, and everybody says what they want to say, and nobody's challenged. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying the way things are. And let me just add here, please be advised and inform all candidates and the general public that Vaughan Radio remains steadfast to what it did, does, and will continue to do. We will attempt, and here's an open invitation for everybody. They can be interviewed by us and discuss on our airwaves. All you got to do is call us and let's talk about it and let's get it organized. And when we do it as well, as you know, a segment of it involves the general public. And that's what we've always done, and it's still open for that. I got to say that maybe one or two of them have already told us, as usual, if you need us, we're in. So that if you find that some are in and some didn't show up, it's because they were not interested, and that's basically. So I just want to let the public know that. We do the best that we can, and as I said, you have a particular format. I'm not complaining, because people choose how they want to present their case, make their points, etc., etc. But you know, that's what it is. Now, yes, Edric, you wanted to say something.
I am going on to the issue of a letter was sent to the commission by the leader of the NRP, seemingly, and everybody, must I say everybody? I had several conversations with that position based on the utterance coming from Prime Minister Timothy Harris regarding the issue of the CBI for Spencer Brand's project, which in my view was not really relevant based on the timeline. And upon the utterances of Prime Minister Harris regarding the Spencer Brand issue, people who are supposed to be intelligent enough to disengage or to entangle or to clarify or to disassociate, as the case might be, certain issues, or let me say specifically, a particular issue as the brand CBI application should be able to utter in a consistent manner, in an intelligent manner, as to whether or not the brand issue is relevant to the subject matter or the current fiasco or the current issues at hand. The issue of Mr. Brand seemingly has been offered during the Vance administration of the Nevis Island administration, and as a result it should never have entered this season of politics regarding that particular issue. And therefore, the leader of the NRP took it an extra step to have written to the Commission. And in my view, that person should have been able to understand the relevance, or as a non-issue that is associated with the current state of affairs. In my view, the issue of Mr. Brand's application, although it has been approved at a certain level, should not have been brought into the current discourse with reference to the current state of affairs. And I'm saying to the the current Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, he should never have brought it into the domain, because the Brand issue occurred under the Vance administration, Vance Army administration, God bless his soul. But I'm only bringing it to the fore based on my view that, in fact, it's a non-issue and it is irrelevant. It has no association with the current state of affairs. Hence, people again at a certain level of intelligence should be able to disassociate or separate or segregate relevant issues from non-relevant issues. Well,
just a mere comment. To be quite honest, I heard about the issue and I've dug into it a little bit, and I'm trying to find some culpability on Brand's behalf, and I can't really. So it's not really an issue, but one expect that in this kind of environment, dirt will be dug up, you know.
But you have to have good dirt.
Yeah?
You have to have good dirt.
Dirt will be dug up. Maybe sand can come with it or stone. But dirt will be dug up around people, and people is going to advance the truth and the untruth about people. It's about damaging one's ableness to be successful in an election. So these things, even though they cut deep at times, doesn't really surprise me given the kind of campaign we sometimes run in the Federation. And this one could be the most revealing of them all, really. I am so disappointed, really, in our elected representative to have really brought the level of discourse to this level, really. Yes, a government have broken up, and it looks like everything is being spilled. The truth and the untruth, and the public are left to sift through a pile of rubbish, really. As I say, I'm very disappointed in every respect. Mr. Brand, I know as an individual who would always try his best to stay on the right path, to stay within legality. I can say that about him, and I'll be very surprised if, knowing to him, he would attempt to do anything which would be illegal or totally create contention for himself and his party, and morality too. I find him to be quite a up-straight individual, to be quite honest. And I must say this about Mr. Brand, even though they've been calling his name a lot. The public works has been experiencing a revolution under Mr. Brand. I think it's the best time we have seen public works functioning. No one, everywhere I look, I see things happening in that area, good things, worthwhile things, impacting things in terms of the environment. I think public works have experienced a revolution, and no one can say, like we could have said years and years ago, that we got 4 or 5 men here waiting on a generator for 4 hours, and it's almost 12 o'clock and time to go home and nothing's been done. I think, because I observe Nevis very well, I look at the wastage that happen in government, and I will congratulate Mr. Brand publicly that he have created a positive image, and he has been doing positive things from that particular department which he leads. And so in the midst of all this, I am complimenting Mr. Brand for his work, his stewardship thus far in government. In this issue, I've revealed that he have bought some land down there, and I'm interested in that too. But I don't see the issue. I don't see a big mountain out of this issue. It can be made to seem like it is a big, but what did Brand do? What is wrong, to be quite honest? In fact, a young man who wants to invest some money and with his family, and I think he must be complimented, really, really and truly. And if he have tapped into that source, it's an available source. What's wrong with that? It's an available source. And I cannot see the problem surrounding Mr. Brand and his intended investment back then, and his willingness to source funds, whether home and abroad, because I think many have done it, and create great benefit for the Federation over in St. Kitts. And so we would like to see something happen in Nevis too, regardless of who is doing it, really. And as a Nevision, I would be very proud. I hear people talking, Van must resign. I mean, come on, why? A man who is trying to extend his contribution, really, and at the same time he would have some personal benefits. But we must look at these projects as something that is more national, more Nevis. If Brand was a white man from somewhere else, he wouldn't have been handled this way. He wouldn't have been, crucified this way. Everybody would have liked things to happen, and yes, a little project is developed in the south of Nevis. So I don't really see why we should try to kill a young man from Nevis who is attempting to do something, and subsequently became a government minister, and we want to mix it up all because of politics. I can't work with that.
The thing is that it was geared to being an albatross around the neck of the Honorable Mark Brantley. So they have abrogated, associated, initiated an issue, a campaign issue, a political issue, to more or less label Mark Brantley, Honorable Mark Brantley, as one who should know, based on the fact that in his cabinet he has a proponent of the CBI project,
Yeah.
but they didn't really go on to say truly as to how the project is associated with the Brantley administration. And therefore, it left people guessing, hanging, suggesting falsehood, seemingly falsehoods, seemingly falsehoods about the association of the project with reference to the Nevis Island administration, of which the Honourable Mark Brantley is the head. And therefore I believe, well, it's clear that it has no association, no way to abrogate or to associate that project with the Nevis Island administration and the CBI current affairs regarding the jail, the prison. As a result, it was revealed that the CBI program was earmarked to bring in 175,000 US. At the same time, currently, whatever less can the administrator of the project, if I may title him that way, he stated it's on the world market, not exact words, and whatever the program can bring, it brings, and consequently it probably brought in far less, maybe 15,000 US per CBI share. That revelation has sparked a debate as to who's telling the truth and who is not telling the truth regarding the CBI program. So if the CBI program was initiated in law to bring in 175,000 per share, per issue, why is it being sold on the world market, as the case might be, for far less than it is legally mandated? So what I'm saying to you, even though in my view the issue is irrelevant regarding Mr. Brand's CBI application, these people who are propelling supposedly falsehood are intelligent enough to know that they should not be lumped together, because again the project was brought way before Mr. Brand joined the Nevis Island administration as an elected leader, and therefore it seems, let me repeat, it seems there's a certain amount of dishonesty regarding the dissertation, regarding
Mr. Stanley, dishonesty is a feature. Dishonesty is a feature in this campaign.
seemingly I said.
No, seemingly. Dishonesty is a feature in this campaign. We must realize that the people are left to believe whoever they want to believe. There's so much things that's being said in this campaign, and I'm sorry for the electorate, because it's like, and that's why I say much earlier, months ago, that the issue, the fundamental issue in this campaign is who caused the trouble. Yeah, and now they're saying is he, is she, or whoever, and a lot of things are being said outside that, which tend to make the public, give the public that puts the public in a position of trying to believe or trying to find out who is telling the truth. So to me, dishonesty is a feature in this campaign. And it's worrying, but it is a feature, and therefore we got to sift through what is being said very carefully, very, very carefully. And of course, we probably have to yield to logics at times to get to the heart of the matter. But dishonesty and lies, character assassination is a feature of this campaign. Yes, and I'm very worried, actually, I must say, because at the end of the day, I want to know where we're going to stand at the end of the election, because to me, CCM can get 3 seats in Nevis, or 2, or whatever, and maybe NRP can get 3 or 2 or whatever. But let me say, CCM can get 3 and Nevis still loses. Okay? Because we are expecting to find ourselves in a better position than previous. We are expected to find ourselves in a better position. And if we don't, then that's another chapter. So I am very worried as to what would be the sequel to this exercise, this federal election. Because we can have all the seats we want here in Nevis, but Nevis still lose. You know, a political party can win in Nevis, one will win the federal votes, and Nevis still loses. I want Nevis to win. That's the point I'm making. I want Nevis to win. So whatever is going to happen after this federal election, we want to be in a stronger federal position, more hands-on than before, and have that fair share being realized, whatever it's going to be. I'm not sure if it's going to be a new arrangement or what. The Constitution is there. But I don't want Nevis to lose. So that is my concern. And it's a serious concern. And I think if we lose, meaning we find ourselves in a worse position, that should evoke a serious chapter in the history of Nevis politics.
Well, the thing is that the fair share issue looms large, and I do not understand how some people could miss that issue. Money is absolutely relevant to running the affairs of Nevis, and we have seen a massive transformation in Nevis, a massive transformation. You look around, those who can't see will never see, simply because they have a hidden agenda. But if you look around, you will see a massive transformation as to where the money has been spent that we have received. We have received so far 400 million over a 7-year period, and in that regard it has been spent, and you could see where the money has been spent. But it was a drop in the bucket. The 400 million that we have received over the 7-year period should have been far more than that. We have received only 7% of what is allotted to us. Based on the constitutional arrangement and the fair share arrangement, we should be getting 25% based on the Parata arrangement. 75 for St. Kitts, 25 for Nevis. And in my view, whatever is produced in St. Kitts and Nevis, again, I've said it before, is part of the general GDP. Therefore, Nevis is entitled to its full share. And the math is as simple as the 5 fingers or the 10 fingers on our hands. We don't need anybody to come from the World Bank to tell us what the numbers are, the figures are. But we have been honored by the information that the Prime Minister, Timothy Harris, has uttered. He said over the 1 year period, we have received, or he has given to Nevis, 66 million. At the same time, he knows that we are entitled to 147 million, because if 588 million has been collected, you do the math, you add 3 noughts and divide by 4, simple, 147 million, which means they have $81 million for us, which we can do very well with every cent of that 81 million. So,
but how, repeat that for me, Mr. Stanley, please. I'm going to write it down because that's some like it's good for the kids on the playground. You add 3 noughts and divide by 4.
You divide 588 million in order to arrive at the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
You add 3 noughts
Mm-hmm.
and you divide the 588 by 4.
Okay.
Let's do it simply. 4 into 5 goes once.
That's okay. You
and
know,
1.
yeah, I just want the formula. Add 3 noughts and divide by 4.
That is correct.
Why do people always tell me more than I want to know? Yeah, go ahead.
But you get it. You got it correctly now.
Yeah, I
You see
wrote
the answer.
it. Yeah, I wrote it down because I'm going to test the kids with it on the playground.
Okay.
Add 3 noughts and divide by 4. What do you get? Okay, so go ahead.
So it's 100.
Walk. I got you. Go ahead.
From that, if the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister, stated, and he didn't have any word in his mouth, I listened to his press conference, and he said he has given to Nevis so far for the year 66 million, which we are entitled to 147 million. And this is where the rubber meets the road. The Honourable Mark Grantley is asking for our fair share, and therefore he owes us 81 million. In that mathematical equation, in that dispensation of monies, medicine, security should be added to reduce the 81 million. So if we look at receiving 60 million, give them 21 million, and therefore we get 60 million more. Schools could be built, more roads, or there's so many roads in Nevis to be reconditioned that every penny could be spent wisely, should be spent wisely, and based on the stewardship of the Honourable Mark Grantley, Nevis has been transformed, and you could see it.
Okay, so now you wanted to answer that because I wanted to make a different point, and yes. So the other point I wanted to make that I noted was that when Naya was speaking earlier, you also spoke about you know, the campaign and what dishonesty. You said dishonesty is a part of the campaign and stuff like that.
Shouldn't be.
And one of the things that I noted is the resignation of the Prime Minister of Britain. And I was in discussion with somebody, and they said, you know, there are only seemingly 2 countries left that operate on some sort of integrity platform. And they said Britain and Canada. Because it is pressure that made the Prime Minister of Britain resign. Where in these islands and around these parts you're going to get anybody resign, no matter how blatant a behavior or something is, right? So in those places you still have that sort of pressure from the public, and so I thought that was interesting as well. The other thing that I thought was interesting in that is how it is his own party that pushed him out, and not only that, they brought a motion of confidence against him before that, which he survived, but it was the constant pressure still. And then he eventually says, okay, I'm not needed, so I'm gone. So I found that also very interesting. And then when you add to that the problems that they had in the British Virgin Islands earlier, in a couple of months, and the way they solved that, where the Premier got into certain issues, they got together, they got a motion, replaced him, no election, and they continue. In other words, sometimes we have to appreciate that the country is bigger than the individual.
It's always been. The country is always bigger than the individual. But with the patronized system, people will always look the other way and do not apply the appropriate pressure.
What do you mean with the patronized system? You don't have it in the other areas?
Not as blatantly.
So why is it not as blatant? It's because of the people. That's the point. Now you want to tell me and blame the system?
Well, the dynamics are part of the system, and thus we can see the patronizing system being an integral part of our system, more so than in larger countries. Every country that has a democratic system of government, Republican form of government, has a patronizing system, but at the same time, it is not as blatant sometimes as we have here. In the Caribbean...
So in other words, put another way, every system or every country is governed by laws.
Right.
Some people obey the laws, or some countries, and some don't.
That is correct.
Okay.
Well, with a great example, yes, what happened in England. No, that doesn't happen in the islands, in the Caribbean islands. People doesn't resign easily, doesn't matter the extent of the default. But we always think that we are the product of the Westminster system, and our constitution is based on the Westminster Constitution. Our constitution comes out of a revolution, well, not a bloody revolution as such, whereas the British Constitution comes from tradition, from time historic, in history. It's built up itself. It's a completely different thing. And as I always make the point that there are laws, there are rules in the British Constitution which are not legal rules, but they carry even more potent than legal rules. And that's why you see in England, once there's a problem in certain department, usually the head of department will have to go if he have lost the confidence of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister would have destroyed the Conservative Party. He could not have gotten any law in terms of public respect and so forth. You know, I mean, the Prime Minister of England was playing around, and he has played around for a long time. He's by nature that type of person. And so, as they said, they had used him for the Brexit, and he just couldn't continue beyond that. And so he would have destroyed. There's a concept called ministerial responsibility, which is not a legal rule. It's a non-legal rule. It's a part of the convention, and that is fundamental in British constitutional law, because if you're the head of the ministry and there is an absolute and real serious default, you will have to go. And I put it down sometimes to the fact that everybody in the British Parliament are rich people. But it's not like that in the Caribbean. You know, some politicians say, no, we can't give up this. Because it's money. They are driven by money and not their integrity. They're driven by money and not the promotion or the establishment of tendencies that would promote the islands of which they lead. And so we destroy our own democracy. We destroy our own self. And
okay, now let's see if we can go to our first caller. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. Yes, Mr. Herbert, I would like to first say, I got some information today, and I would like to just say to everyone that I forgive everyone. Let's go on. Naya, under our Constitution, can the opposition bring a legislation or motion to Parliament other than the motion of no confidence?
Well, they can bring a motion, but it doesn't have to take it on board, I suppose.
Because I noticed if you have government members, all they move the motion of no confidence. You have the opposition moving motion of no confidence. But what I can't understand, if you had 6 members plus the opposition prepared to support a motion of no confidence, couldn't the Honourable Mark Bradley bring a motion for fair share in the Parliament and get the same support from those gentlemen? It's just something I can't understand. Why would the Honourable Mark Bradley have to be in government in Sinky if we deserve something that belongs to us? Why do you have to go to Sinky to work to get something that already belongs to you? These are questions I can't understand. How could somebody please link the two together?
Caller, I could ask you a question just for clarification.
Yes, sir.
When you say when you ask why does the Honourable Mark Brantley have to go to St. Kitts to work to get what is ours, do you mean the Honourable Mark Brantley personally, yes, or do you mean a member from Nevis?
Well, let's say a member from Nevis,
okay,
and any side that wins the election.
Okay, so
this is the argument, Mr. Herbert, that is being placed on the platform.
Yeah, I got you. I just wanted to make it clear, because you see, sometimes it seems to me as if people are so obsessed with one person, they don't see the big picture. So I just want to know whether or not you meant just him personally, or you were just like, work with me, just like the Constitution. You notice Mark Brantley's name is not in it?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I'm just giving him the respect because he's the Premier of Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
So you notice I don't normally call him by them kind of first name and so. Mm-hmm. Like some people will say, have a nickname and thing. I don't do those kind of things.
Mm-hmm. No, caller, for me, I just wanted to know whether you meant a member for Nevis.
Of Parliament in
yes.
Nevis.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I trying to, understand. How if someone could link the two. If you have something for me that I deserve, that is mine. But then the person that know that something belongs to him is saying to the citizen, but I have to go to work for that person out there will have something for me, mm-hmm, to bring it back. That is confusing. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing, Naya, do you think it would have been wise if the Prime Minister had bring the motion of no confidence, considering the kind of revelation we are hearing? We would have been hearing more, in my view. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Well, the caller is speaking something which is of consideration to me. Oftenly or frequently, I've been told that the people in Nevis must elect somebody to go to Sinkers to fight for Nevis. And I've been hearing this for so long, really. Elect somebody to go to Sinkers to fight for Nevis. I don't know how long this fighting would be going on and why this fighting has to be going on. But you know, Webbo, the Prime Minister, have said any money we send to Nevis, it means $1 less down here, right? Well, that concept is correct. And
how could it be correct?
Well, it's true. It is true. The more money they send to Nevis, yeah. I mean, that's human nature still, you know. He's saying something which is correct. You know, it is absolutely something he shouldn't be saying in the scheme of things.
Well, if he shouldn't be saying it, he can't be correct.
Oh, yeah? No. Get it right, Stanley. Get it right. Get it right. Mathematically, he's correct. You got me? Mathematically, he's correct. And to me, that's almost human nature. I am saying that if we probably used to collect the money over here, maybe we would have been deciding, well, what would we send to sink is the way they're dealing with us. What I'm saying is, Nevis and Nevisians have to realize that we're in a different boat over here. I think we would constantly be having financial inequality between Sinkers and Nevis as it relates to what we're on about now, the fair share. I don't see it coming to an end, really. It might be, you know, a little subtle for a while, but it's going to flame up again going forward. I believe that if we listened to Nevis and Nevis had a voice, Nevis would have been saying, look, I don't really want to go back to St. Kitts, you know, but if I have to go, let it be just for a short time. I believe that's what Nevis is saying. And if that concept is established in the political leaders of Nevis, they would be on a move to prepare Nevis in a serious way, to prepare Nevis going forward, and that would be beneficial to us in terms of the economic machinery we try to establish and the consistency of these machineries. It will be beneficial to us. And I think that is where we are falling short. That it seems to me like we, the people of Nevis, care more about the Federation than the people of St. Kitts. I don't think the people of St. Kitts want Nevis to be part of the upcoming government. I'm talking about the majority of people of St. Kitts. The dynamics have changed, you know. And so, as I said much earlier, I'm worried as to what's going to happen in the next dispensation, which is going to be pretty soon, because I want Nevis to be in a better position. But the politicians, the leaders of the NRP and the system must listen to Nevis. Listen to the people. Nevis is the first place I ever see that the majority of people want to have a political separation from St. Kitts, and the political leaders in Nevis is not talking about it, as if they're saying, look, just forget about that. The majority of people in Nevis wants to be separated politically from St. Kitts. It is a political issue, and you are political leaders. Well, how you can simply just cast a blind eye on that? That's the problem. Because if you take that on board, you would prepare Nevis. You would see that we have a more vibrant economy. We would try to stir up more money in Nevis. We'll work on that. We would be asking for a fair share, but we would reduce our dependency on St. Kitts. This is serious to me going forward. If we don't want to constantly repeat our mistake over and over again. I don't want to hear 2025 or 2030 we have to elect somebody to go to St. to fight for Nevis. Been hearing this since my dad was in politics 1960 something, man. Why the political leaders of Nevis does not listen to Nevis? The majority want a political separation. So why don't talk about that? Are you afraid of St. Why we are not talking about it? Why we not acknowledging it and realizing, look, do we have something at hand? Our people in the majority wants to be separated.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening to you, Dr. Herbert, and good evening to your panel. Now, I just want to say to Naya, you remember that some years back that we had championed the cause to be separated from St. And the problem that we have, as long as it does not have the majority to do that, we're going to always end up in a problem. So, what we got to do is to continue to work with what we have until something comes down the road, because now that we have seen that we have a champion like Mr. Mark Brantley to champion the cause for Nevis. Remember Mr. Amri was more cool guy, but Mark is a guy, a no-nonsense guy, and he say what he mean and he mean what he say, and it's the kind of people that we need to stand up, that the people of Nevis understand that we have a federation, St. and Nevis. That's why we have a passport that carries the symbol of St. and Nevis, not St. and not Nevis. So the problem that we have, so we got to continue to champion the cause for the people of Nevis. And if it's not happening, then the people of Nevis will decide whether we want to continue to take the insult, or because we have to do what we want, what we have to do in order to get freedom from St. That's why I think Anguilla stayed with England, because they reckon that under Thatcher they was not getting treated well. That's why they stayed with England. God bless you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
I am not,
You're not a separatist, Mr. Stanley. I understand that very much.
and because of that, we have to continue to work and look at the benefits, look at the plus side rather than the minus side. And I think the plus side creates more value, in my view, in my estimation and in my calculation, than the negative side, the minus side. Therefore, the Constitution is there, a clause has been put in it, that clause has been activated in the past, it failed through the referendum. It may have cost some money to do the exercise. You are proposing that the Nevian leaders must go down that same path once more. And if they don't have the vision that it would succeed, they would never dare to tread that path again. But look at all the dynamics, the pluses and the minuses, as the case might be, and make a determination, make a evaluation, and a conclusion as to whether or not we will tread that path again. Sure, Nevis has come a long, long way. Nevis has a lot further to go. And if we are treated fairly...
Yeah, but Nevis is being stifled. Nevis has been stifled.
I listened to one section of the Honorable Mark's program, or on the Mark program. I can't tell you if it is factual because I don't see the evidence. You have to trust and verify. Trust, but verify. That's a favorite phrase from the late Ronald Reagan. And there is supposedly, based on the utterances coming from the On the Mark program, that there is a CDB proposal for the geothermal in Nevis that is just waiting for a letter from the Honorable Prime Minister for Nevis to get the money to be released for the building of the geothermal project.
Okay.
Now, if this is the case, I qualified it again with if this is the case, why is the Prime Minister is not giving the assent or that letter for us to get the money out of CDB that has been supposedly, I qualified it, approved for the geothermal for Nevis? It's only fair, it's only right, and it's only proper for the leaders to fulfill their mandate to the people of this nation.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening to you again, Dr. Webbo. Now, I want to say to Mr. Stanley, the problem that we have is grudge and bad mind, because this is something that we've been talking about for years now about the geothermal in Nevis. And you're telling me they try it with under Labour, Douglas Labour, and now they try it under Timothy Labour, and all because they're trying to keep them Nevis, because they're trying to make sure that CCM fail, that NRP can rise up. The people Nevis are wiser than that. We're going to do what is right when the time is come. God bless you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Based on what is required, it is a guarantee from the federal government. It cannot be guaranteed by the NIA, and simply because the federal government has the authority to grant that authority to give the go-ahead by CDB, we've been stymied.
Okay. Well, the other thing I wanted to just raise as well, by way of a question, as the campaign is going on, the current campaign, and heating up, has anybody heard a lot or anything about campaign financing? I ask that on the backdrop of we're always hearing persons, some of who are running now, very concerned about where monies are coming from for campaigns. Now, so that's the question, do we hear that as a part of the rhetoric for this particular campaign? Are candidates asking one another where you're getting your monies from? Or are some who are concerned about campaign financing, are they saying where they're getting their monies from? Or is it just more rhetoric?
Well, it could be categorized as rhetoric simply because maybe everybody is getting campaign financing not from a legal way.
Okay, so my question is, are you hearing anybody raising it?
No.
In any concerns? Naya, what about you?
Not in any big way.
And you hear any section or any size or any one person saying, this is, I have X for my campaign and this is where it comes from. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Didn't answer that.
Good night, Webbo.
Yes.
And good night, Stanley, and good night, Naya.
Nice, sir.
Good night.
Now, Webbo, Stanley, Naya, question to you. do you believe that the majority of people in Nevis thinking about secession? The reason for me to ask you this, now, most of the vendors them from Nevis come down in Sinkit and they sell the provision, the food or whatever. Even some Nevis people down here cooking food and selling the cooked food and they go back up. And me, like me, the butcher me animal, when I butcher a cat last, I ship my meat to Nevis. So I want to know that if the majority, if you think the majority of Nevis thinking about session are the politicians then. You know, because they had a referendum already and it failed. So I would like to know that if the majority of people in Nevis thinking about secede from Sinkit and to be on the road. Alright then.
The majority of people in Nevis thinking of it would be better for Nevis for a political separation. Yes, certainly. The majority definitely feels that way. People are always talking about the referendum that we had in 1998. I mean, that didn't meet the threshold, but it was very successful. We get about 65%, 65 no more than 50. It's a way to make us feel hopeless.
It was 62%, 62 and a third.
It's a way to make us feel hopeless in our quest. 62 and a third. So what have happened to us is that 38% of the people have denied 62 their freedom. That's an unworkable thing, really. It needs to be looked at very, very serious. And I must compliment our people with the calmness, because nowhere in the world that could have happened. Whereas 38% of the people is holding back 62% of the people from their freedom. So that is serious. So I always compliment Mr. Van Zamri because he done well. But that is a line in the sand which we should not attempt to erase, and it continues up to today. You know what? One time, the Honorable Van Zamri, I asked him about this thing, He told me, Naya is going to come up again. He's gone now.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, Webbo, good evening. I want to answer the caller before. I think that, yes, as a Nivijan, the majority of Nivijan is thinking about the separation, something is political separation. But we are not vocal about it because of the political climate. But we think that it would benefit us more if politically we are separated from Sinkis and govern our own affairs. And Webbo, I just want to talk about another thing. Have you guys ever looked at how things is going in Sinkis that maybe, just maybe cheap parties will have to join again to form a government? Because I was looking at a scenario where that two parties in Sinkis get 3 seats and the other get 2, and on Nevis 2 get 1. No, one get 2 and 1 get 1. And so it's going to have to take cheap parties to form the government. But let's hope that don't happen. That's going to create confusion. Let's hope that a party and Sinkis win 4, preferably Labour AFAM, and CCM win 3. And so we have all here on News. I believe most people is thinking about political separation, but we are not vocal about it. It's going to leave to our politicians to get us revved up about the political separation. But right now, I can say that this way things are going and things are looking dicey, and I'm just hoping that very soon things will work out for Nevis, and Nevis can get its fair share.
Okay, thank you very much.
With fair share, everybody in Nevis should be on the bandwagon of the fair share.
And they're not?
Well, no, I'm just hoping.
Yeah, but right, and I'm asking.
Well, I can't tell you. It is too early at this juncture to tell.
So you okay? So you don't have any viewpoint about it. You don't have an unscientific view.
No, I haven't done any checking polling as a case.
No, right. But I said unscientific, which means that you just...
I'm in the trenches. I hear.
Right, and so what you hear in the trenches and what you conclude?
Based on what I'm hearing in the trenches, it is very, very, very likely that we're going back to St. Kitts with the 3 seats. And I'm saying...
When you say we, what do you mean? You're running?
I'm not running. But I'm a division.
Right.
Meaning, Nevis is going back to St. Kitts with 3 seats.
But that's academic. They must go with 3 seats.
What I'm saying is, if they give the 3 seats to one party, then they'll be assured that that one party will be thinking of like mine, and therefore they will have no dissent in the 3 seats. Unison, unified, qualified, and ultimately deliver. So if the fair share slogan, which is plausible, quite plausible, which it should take hold, and in my view, anybody who doesn't subscribe to this fair share notion shouldn't get a vote from the voters of Nevis, but to ensure that Nevis gets its fair share, you got to give, whether you're going to give CCM the 3 seats or give NRP the 3 seats, give one party the 3 seats. Let them go down and work for Nevis. Fair share.
So
But I'm saying to you, based on how the dynamics are, the CCM party is better positioned to have the 3 seats than the NRP. Let's not chance it. Give Nevis the guarantee to ensure that they bring back the bacon, and ultimately the sovereign guarantee that we are trying to get from the current Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, can be assured that we have the sovereign guarantee from a federal government that is geared toward favorably.
Yes, good evening.
Yes.
Thank you for holding.
Webbo?
Yes.
Webbo, what I'm saying is that if we go back to St. Kitts, like CCM go back to St. Kitts with 3 seats, and providing the scenario that I'm talking about works out, you're going down with 3 seats, I think that in order for us to get the fair share, I think that we should be bargaining for prime ministership. I think that's the only way in which that we can get the fair share as quick as possible. Because I'm saying is that if you have 3 parties on St. Kitts, 4 of them winning 3, and 1 of them winning 2, and you go from Nevis with 3, you have to bargain to be in the driver's seat in terms of us, for us to get our fair share. Because we see what's going on in St. Kitts. We see that, to me, St. Kitts citizens are for citizens, and they to me they don't even care about Nevis in terms of politics. So we are the ones now to look out for Nevis. And I'm so surprised that the NRP didn't come on board with Mark Brantley in fighting for the fair share for Nevis. Okay.
All right.
We have to look beyond the current dynamics. A sovereign guarantee has been asked for by CDB, and to guarantee that sovereign guarantee, We need the 3 seats for one party.
When the sovereign guarantee came on board to be guaranteed? A month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago?
Based on what I gathered from the Mark Brantley on the Mark, a sovereign guarantee is still being withheld.
No, I'm asking you, when did it become available to be signed?
Okay.
A month ago, a week ago, 2 years ago?
Somewhere in the area of maybe 3-4 months ago.
Oh, really?
That is what I understood.
So as soon as the government basically broke up, this guarantee came on board to be signed.
I think it's been there before we broke up.
Oh, but that's why I asked you time-wise, you know.
Just when it's about, according to you.
So you said about 4 months ago. The thing broke up about 4 months ago.
Well, here.
So walk with me. So as soon as the government broke up, was about to breaking up and broke up, along came this guarantee to sign to get the geothermal for Nevis. That's what you're telling me.
Well, let me push the date backward. Meaning, maybe 6 months.
Why don't we do this? Get the dates right. Let me take a break, get the dates right, and when I come back, you give me.
Well, I can only operate based on...
This is Thought That Get Results. Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nye Liber. Your phone calls on 1-869-1616 and or 1700. We'll be back after these.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
8:60 a.m. The Powerhouse.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results with Conrad Nye Liburn. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Mr. Stanley, so you got the date for me now?
Well, I don't have a date, meaning I have to trust what has been disseminated and verify it.
But
My
you understand why
apparatus is not in place, so currently I can't verify.
Right, but you understand why the date is important to me.
Quite so.
Okay. Good evening, thank you for holding. I'm very sorry, please call back and we'll get you sorted out.
You know,
Let me take this now and I'll come back to you. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening to you again, Dr. Webbo. So, you know the problem I have with the St. and Nevis, every time there's a federal election and the St. need some help, they run over to Nevis to get somebody to align with them, and then they treat us like nobody. As long as they got to stand up for something, they treat you like nobody. So it's not like people that will come and they give you whatever they give you, you take it and you satisfy with the crumbs and say nothing. You know, this is the thing that really bothers me. Because you don't tell me, Webbo, that so much billion of dollars coming from the CBI and Nevis only deserve $400 million.
But
that's why they're spending money down here like a junkie, I think a junkie say that, like a crackhead. I mean, it bothers me because I'm a proud Nevisian and my father cut sugarcane. So I used to have been coming to St. since I was small, young, going to the primary school. And it bothers me to see the way that our country being treated from St. End. Every time we got to stand up for something, they treat us like we are nobody. And yet they're saying, every day they talk about Synthesis and Nevis Labour Party, Synthesis and Nevis One Federation. I mean, crap. We need to get it right because somebody is fooling somebody. But I surely not fooling Harvey because it makes me sick to hear these politicians always trying to mention Nevis' name. But when it comes to giving, we must get crumbs. And that's why I love Mark Dantley because we can eat a slice of the cake too. Look about thing Mark that we to the hospital to finish, the roads to finish. I drive, when I went to the Bansangwe funeral, when I jump out of the boat, the ferry at Owari, from the time I jump in a bus to go to Charlestown, more patrol all over the place, the roads need to get finished, the Island Main Road, and you're telling me that Nevis only supposed to get crumbs, and all it nicer because you know I get nothing before. Come on, crap! We are saying we deserve better. And when we get decent and honest people who know how to share, Synthesis and Nevis can continue to go on. But until that happens, we got to tell the people like it is. Fear or no share at all. God bless you. Have a good night.
All right, thank you.
Well, I would recommend that we have, or we take the right step in this election to ensure or to guarantee our fair share. And it is simple. When you go into the booth, you vote for one party, and whichever party is in the best position, you vote for that party and we send them back, we send them to St. Kitts with the mandate to ensure or to guarantee our fair share. Look, it is as easy, well, did I say easy? It's not difficult. You look at it from a practical point of view, and I'm a pragmatist, and the easier way to get it done is to ensure you've got unity, and that unity collaborated with another party in St. Kitts, and we are guaranteed a better relationship. I mean, we had a good thing going, you know. It's just that the honorable men,
He wasn't good.
the honorable men that we thought we had lost their honorability, if I may coincide a word.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, this is my last call, Dr. Webbo. No, Dr. Webbo. So you're telling me that the Constitution that was written some years back, right, does not remove the paper that it was written upon? I mean, something got to be wrong with us. It seems like we don't have to then disqualify this Constitution and get a new Constitution. Because I can't see where in the world that our passport being sold at so much, and then you're telling me you can keep the bulk of the money, and then you want to give me the crumbs, and you're still telling me that is good enough, and you spend money bad. Well, you would like to still spending money in thinking, because the people that does not speak the language like us have parties to block off the main road, the road them with vehicles supposed to be driving, having party. And this is what St. Kitts and Nevis really deserve. The people that were born here, this is good enough. And you're saying because our parents went over to these islands? I mean, come on. We were born and bred here, and we are saying the insult that we are getting these days is unbearable. And we are saying it's time for us to get in with that hooliganism. Washington will tell you that if he was alive. We got to get in with that hooliganism and vagabondry. God bless you. Have a good night.
Webbo, I think our biggest competitor is St. Kitts. Our biggest economic competitor is St. Kitts. Mr. Stanley talking about geothermal. I don't want to go too much into that because again it's election and we start hearing geothermal again. But St. Kitts is on about geothermal as well. You're aware of that, Mr. Stanley?
I'm fully aware.
Good. And so we are seeking a signature from down there according to you. Maybe that won't be coming. It's simply that. You know, I find St. Kitts is our biggest competitor in tourism, in every respect and aspect of life, really. But they are our sisters. They are our sister, and you know, family ties and all that. But economically, honestly, I think St. Kitts has sucked Nevis, and we got to watch it, because Nevis have to develop the consciousness that, and look at the facts, how much Nevis money is being spent in St. Kitts on a daily basis. Just look at the people that go to St. Kitts every day, you know. And I'm thinking if that money sometimes being spent in Nevis, we would have been better off. We got to develop that consciousness, you know. We cannot leak out Nevis all the time. We got to remember that we are Nevisians, and our obligation is to Nevis. So in our actions, you know, and our levity should be more towards Nevis. I find that St. Kitts have totally consumed Nevis. Nevis have become a little smaller to me. The economy, everything, you know, because we Nevisians run to St. Kitts for everything, for entertainment, for look at them September morning. I mean, I'm not saying that we have to go and there are times you can't get things in Nevis and so forth, but we are totally consumed by St. Kitts, really, you know, and they take a lot from us. They take a lot from us. I'm not sure if we get that much from them, you know, but we got to look at our circular flow of expenditure as it relates to what is spent in Nevis by Nevisians, you know, as opposed to the money that leaks out to St. Kitts. Bear in mind, St. Kitts is our main competitor. They are our brothers and sisters over there, yes, but they are our main competitor, even though we're supposed to be in the same federation.
Well, competition makes you stronger. Competition makes you stronger. And in that regard, we are a competitive bunch of people in Nevis, you know, as a small geopolitical dot attached to the larger island, St. Kitts. We are quite competitive, and in that regard, the competition between us makes us much stronger.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening, gentlemen on the panel.
Good evening, sir.
Carl Brown here from Fountain and St. Kitts. Gentlemen, as we are discussing all these issues in the upcoming election, I am of the opinion, and I hope you guys would agree with me, that after this election we can get this one going. The Prime Minister, whoever he is, must not hold the election date in the back pocket. We must set a date, a general national date for election. Whatever day that they come on, that is our election. All parties must be aware of it. All voters, intended voters, undecided voters must be aware of that election date, and whether you make up your mind yes or no, we must know that there is a set election date. No more Prime Minister must walk with it in the back pocket and talking about they're going to sweat them and they're going to stretch them out, and only them one could call it and nobody know when they're going to call it. We must get that on the books. It must be passed and gazetted in Parliament and signed by the Governor General that we have an official election date. Gentlemen, the other thing I would like to put forward too, that this new government that is coming in, I hope they have no intention whatsoever to put no money into Liat. Good God, gentlemen, we can't take it no more. Liat has been a nagging cancer to us, and we keep trying to add medication to the cancer, and the cancer is refusing the medication, and we still forcing medication into Leah cancer. We have to get rid of Leah. We, the taxpayers, can't take it no more, gentlemen. And the government coming in, please, as I always been begging you for you, get rid of Leah. Trinidad got an airline now they call Caribbean Airline. We got Winnie. We can link all of these other small airlines and make something happen. They have been doing something for us and making it happen. Why we always holding on to Leah? That nagging cancer. Gone, gentlemen, something to you, for you all to think about and discuss.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, Leah will always come up as an issue. And to be honest, there is a trade-off for safety, there's a trade-off for longevity, and there's a trade-off for a lot of employment for us as a region. The airline industry is not a money-making industry. We make money, the airline makes money when the aircrafts are new. Then when they get older, they fall into disrepair and the money has to plow back into maintenance and the like. But at the same time, if you were to follow the history of the airline industry, you would find...
Let me just take this, Mr. Stan, and let you continue. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening again, Webbo. And good evening, Mayor. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
When it comes to spending, I believe, nothing, I am against what you're saying, eh? But when it comes to spending between St. and Navy, I think it goes across the board. Because we petition to come up here can spend too. Up to the guy lady come up and she went buy some 211, some plywood chips, some farm plywood chips with the carb she house. She tell me she buy them in Navy. And when we get culture now, his petition come up here, we spend big. Any event Navy got up here, we come up and we spend. So I believe when it comes to spending, it go across the board. You know, I believe as one brothers and sisters think it Navy, I believe the politicians could work it out and things could come equal and the Navy the fair share. Because it's easy to do, it's nothing hard to do. Because separating me with some thinking, it's just like you're going to separate me from maybe the animals in the mountain. You understand? Because we got to come to Nevis and we got to come to Sinking. We must come here. And, you know, my family side, my brother, my sister, my niece, my nephew, you know, so he got Kittishan down here, he got Kittishan live down here, born down here and Galan in Nevis. He got Nibijan born up there, and Galan down here Sinking. And got house here Sinking. And Kittishan got house up here. So it goes across the board. I believe that the politician forget about secede or political whatever, political separation, and we could come together as one. It's easy. We just got to be strong, and the people got to be strong too, to get this done. All right then, good program then, as usual.
So I was saying, if you look at the airline industry, quite a number of airlines came.
Yes, so you agree with the caller's point on that? You're saying that to say what? They should put the money in there because...
Quite so.
Okay. Now,
Well, you know, the LEAT issue's been around for a while. And, you know, sometimes we're afraid of change. But those who are dealing with it, really, you know, sometimes we got to trust, you know, the authorities that sometimes represent the government. I, for one, wouldn't have much to say about LEAT. I know they create a lot of employment, and I know they have a high safety standard. But if the economics are not running right, and it is too much of a burden on the islands, sometimes the fact that it's represent that Caribbean thing that we on about sometimes, like the West Indies team, the University of the West Indies, and so forth. Sometimes the economic squeeze is too hard.
Okay, let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. I'm calling to ask a simple, short question. And my question is, why is it after every election, the Prime Minister have to come out and think it and not Nevis? Right now, if TCM win the 3 seats and PAM win the 3 seats, they need each other just as much as each other need each other. So therefore, if TCM give the PAM the 3 seats and PAM gives TCM the 3 seats, it's time enough for the Prime Minister come to Nevis and no longer be thinking, and then Nevis will get its full share. And that's only how Nevis will get its full share, if the Prime Minister is in Nevis. And like Mark always said, people in Nevis would be able to get any position in government they want. So therefore, Mark is eligible to get the Prime Ministership and hold it in Nevis. And that's my end of story.
That's the end of your story?
Yes, Mr. Herbert.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
And that's my end of story.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen, again. Carl Bowling here again. I do not agree with the gentleman just now to say we have created a lot of employment. Some of you all on the program are business people. Would you all like to create a lot of employment in your business in Nevis and not paying your staff the bonuses, paying your staff the salaries and things, but your business is running down, but you still have staff employed. You're letting go, you're taking on, and you gone steady and say, well, I hired a lot of people in Nevis, a lot, 5,000 people done passed here in the last 5 years. So I hire a lot of staff, but your business going nowhere. Okay. You
Caller, let's just hold. Mr. Stanley, walk with me. You would like to answer the caller. The caller would like to know if you would like to have a business, employ a lot of people and don't be paying them.
I don't operate that way. At the same
So
time,
your answer would be
we
no?
must categorize Lear as a Caribbean institution.
No, but he asked you the question. You would not run a business that way?
No.
Okay, but you would recommend it's okay for Leah to run a business that way?
Well, it is, simply
Okay.
because it, based on the dynamics and the reality, harsh reality, Lear will always lose money.
Okay, so caller, you got his response?
That's still not satisfactory. Get rid of Lear. We have smaller airlines in the Caribbean. We can merge them together and run a better airline. What Lear is God to us? So you mean we can't get rid of God? I mean, come on, gentlemen. We have other resources we could turn to in the Caribbean. Why is it that we have to hold on to God, Lear? So we can't do nothing without God, Lear. So what are you saying? If we get rid of Lear, pay off the staff and what we owe to them. More with two smaller airlines that could do the same work that Lear betting. Gentlemen, I don't see that is better. It is cheaper. It is more economical for the taxpayers and the governments of the Caribbean. Instead of sucking us dry year after year and saying that they hire a lot of people, there's a Caribbean airline, so we must keep them. Come on. How many business come to St. Kitts Nevis and did not do well? And where they're gone. We form smaller business and we are striving and doing better. Come on, gentlemen, Lear is not God. And even people have said they want God. They want God.
Okay.
Come on, gentlemen.
All right.
I'm gone.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Stanley, you would not do it in your business, but based on what Liat is, you think they should do that?
Yeah.
I got you. Now, what do you think?
No, them individuals who suffer because of not being paid what is deserved, what they deserved, or what they're assigned to. These are individuals who have problems. They're having great problems. Doesn't matter how high is the sentiments, how much sentiments is around. You're talking about individuals, and I think if that's the case, then the governments of those islands where these individuals find themselves out of pocket because of LEAD should have some responsibility, I suppose. But no, that is a non-workable situation, Mr. Stanley, not at all.
Okay, now I just want to mention again the thing about campaign finance, because you know I want to mention it. You all didn't have much contribution to make, and I've done this thing for a number of years, and oftentimes people like to talk about campaign finance, they need to declare, but I can't hear anybody saying it now. But when this thing is over, no doubt, it's going to come up again. You know what I call that? Thought I will get no result. A lot of the folks who are running now, I can pull back some tapes. They were very passionate about campaign finance. The public needs to know where the money is coming from the campaigns. Right?
Yes.
And you all just join in. So while the thing is relevant at this point, I'm asking you all again, can you all point me to anyone who is bringing up this issue, anyone who is saying, I am running a campaign, I have X amount of dollars to run this campaign, and it comes from sources A, B, and C? Because people always talking about it, and they get all sort of what do you call it, the chamber and all sort of people to let them sign on it. So now the thing is relevant, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, nothing about it.
So again, there's a reason why I say it, because when the time comes again, I'll probably say something. Listen, that's thought that get no results, so let's move on from it.
To be honest, you will always have the issue of campaign financing, and nobody wants to own it. Nobody wants to take responsibility to say where the money is coming from. As a result, I think it is an albatross around all the people's neck.
So that is why I am highlighting it. So when the time comes, that's how I play the games, you know. I work out the rules first. And just like when I'll tell folks, listen, if you're cursing anybody and stuff like that and so on, I'm not going to let you go on. So I tell you ahead of time. So I'm telling you all now. Why don't we have, I want to hear now about this campaign finance.
From whom?
From all who used to talk about it. Because some or all are in the game at this point. The game is being played.
Quite so.
And I'm putting squarely you and Naya as well in it, because you all just join in. So I want to know if you all ain't bringing it up this time. That's the point that I'm making. When it matters, you got it. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening, yes, to everybody.
Hello. We're almost out of time, so you have a half a minute.
Oh, yes. But that is a good statement you make, because what happened, it's a good idea, nobody knowing about where the money coming from. And Webbo, you know, it hurt my heart to see so much money down here lavishing away. And nobody could tell you really where it's coming from, and then the person we put there to run our country also got laughing stock by big time. How they did the date in the pocket on one thing, the same date he said Mr. Douglas didn't want to call. I feel it make us feel like with it. Where are we going? Mr. Webbo, These people need to come clean. And we need to come with more better sense than that. Right? We are not foolish no more. We're not uneducated no more. Come with the truth and Liat. I don't know what's about Liat. Liat sucking too much of money and then you can't eat which way you're going on time. And they're dropping you off different places. So what you really good for?
Okay.
Always late. You have a good evening.
All right. Thanks much. Have a good evening. Yes.
Need money.
Well, it's that dark side of our political culture we're dealing with here. Campaign finance. It's never been something we looked into with an idea of creating a solution or a transparency, and so we now see it and hear and talk about it, but somehow it's being played by, as you say, the people who find themselves in that position and speak negative towards it, and now they're, I suppose, a part of it. I am not sure how the electorate is going to deal with this, but obviously campaign finance is a fundamental issue in any democratic process. But here it's like a loose cannon, I suppose.
That's a taboo, Webbo. And you will never be able to get people truly talking as to where the money is coming from.
Okay, so that statement, if you're saying you'll never be able to do it, then it is fair to say the next time you or anyone else bring it up and we have another topic to say, so let's go on to something else, right?
No,
so you don't doubt that will get no result. This program repeats at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning following the VON News Minute. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.